The pounding started before Smith was fully awake. Not gentle, not patient, violent. Bang, bang, bang. Smith's eyes snapped open. His chest rose sharply as if his body already sensed danger before his mind caught up. Police! Open the door! His throat went dry instantly. For a moment, he sat frozen on the edge of the bed, heart slamming so hard it hurt. The early morning light through the blinds felt too bright, too exposed. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. He forced himself up and walked toward the door, each step heavy, like walking into cold water. When he opened it, four officers stood there, and behind them, red and blue lights painted the hallway walls like blood and ice. "Mr. Smith Carter?" the lead officer asked. "Yes." Cold metal clicked around Smith's wrists. "You are under arrest for the murder of your neighbor, Mr. George Hill." The words didn't just land. They sank deep into his chest. Smith's lips parted, but no sound came out at first. "I what? No, that's not possible. You were the last person seen entering his apartment last night," the officer said flatly. "And the last person seen leaving." From the corner of his eye, Smith noticed something that made his stomach drop even further. Across the parking lot, a black SUV, engine running, and behind the tinted window, someone was watching. As they pushed him toward the patrol car, memory dragged him backward into the night before. It had started with a soft knock. 9:03 p.m. Mr. George never knocked, never visited. So when Smith opened the door and saw the old man standing there, something inside him had already tightened. "Good evening, Smith," George had said. His voice was calm, but his eyes looked like a man who hadn't slept in days. "Yes, sir. I was hoping you would join me for a chat." Smith almost said no. He didn't know why, just instinct. But something in George's face stopped him. So he followed. George's apartment felt heavy. Books everywhere. Perfectly arranged. Too perfectly. Smith's gaze drifted to a dark blue book sitting high on the shelf. George noticed immediately. "You've been looking at that one." Smith gave a small, awkward smile. "Yeah, I like history." Without hesitation, George stood and handed him the book. "You can borrow it." Smith took it carefully. "I'll return it when I'm done reading." George held his gaze longer than normal. "I know you will." They talked, but the longer they spoke, the stranger the conversation became. George kept steering the discussion toward power, corruption, hidden systems, like a man trying to say something without saying it. At 11:30 p.m., Smith finally stood to leave. "Thanks again for the book." George walked him to the door. Then he said something that now made Smith's skin crawl. He smiled lightly, but his voice was serious. "If you ever find out I'm dead, I want you to be my eyes." Smith gave a nervous chuckle. "Sir, that's dark." George's smile faded just a little. "You have all it takes to uncover mysteries." And for the first time, Smith felt cold standing in that doorway. Back in the present, the patrol car door slammed shut beside him. Smith's breathing had gone shallow, because now the memory felt different. Not strange, intentional. George had known something, planned something, and worst of all, across the parking lot, the black SUV slowly pulled away. Smith felt it in his bones. This wasn't just about murder. Someone bigger was already involved. The interrogation room smelled like bleach and old fear. Questions came fast. Too fast. Why were you arguing weeks ago? Why did neighbors hear raised voices? Why did George call you specifically? Smith rubbed his temples. We were talking. That's all. But no one believed him. Hours later, the mood shifted. A phone call. Whispers. Doors opening. Smith knew exactly why. His brother's influence. Power worked quietly. By evening, he was released. But not free. His passport was confiscated. Court appearances mandatory. And the label followed him everywhere. Prime suspect. Back home, the apartment felt wrong. Too quiet. Too aware. Smith locked the door slowly. George's voice echoed again. Be my eyes. A chill ran down his spine. He grabbed the blue book and flipped through it again. Nothing. Just pages. Frustration built in his chest. Then, his thumb paused along the spine. Uneven. His heartbeat quickened. Carefully, he pressed the inner seam. Click. The spine shifted. Smith's breath caught. A tiny flash drive slid into his shaking palm. For several seconds, he couldn't move. Couldn't breathe. George, he whispered. You knew. The files were explosive. Names. Payments. Hidden accounts. And one name repeated like a drumbeat. Director Elaine Kitt. Head of a powerful federal task force. Untouchable. Smith's hands trembled. This is bigger than I thought. 3 days later, the first reporter he contacted was dead. Official report, car accident. Smith stared at the headline, stomach turning cold. This wasn't coincidence. This was cleanup. The second reporter died faster. Too fast. Smith began noticing things. The same black SUV. Different streets. Different times. Always nearby. Director Kitt wasn't just watching. She was hunting. Smith's last hope was Marcus Hale, a disgraced investigative reporter. They met quietly. Marcus listened carefully. Long silence. You understand my reputation is destroyed, right? Marcus said. I know, Smith replied. Marcus leaned forward slowly. But if this is real, this is nuclear. Smith slid partial files across the table. Insurance. Marcus smiled faintly. Outside the diner, the black SUV idled again. Chapter 9. The night they tried to erase him. Rain streaked Marcus's windshield. The empty road stretched ahead. Then headlights appeared behind him. Too close. Too aggressive. Marcus's grip tightened. Here we go. The impact came hard. His car spun violently into the dark water channel. Paint exploded. Water rushed in. But Marcus forced shaking fingers toward the dash camera. Still recording. Still watching. Gunshots cracked into the sinking car. Then, silence. Footsteps. A calm female voice. Director Kitt. More shots. Then she left. From the shadows, Smith stepped forward. He had seen everything. His hands shook violently as he dragged Marcus from the wreck. Stay with me, please. That night changed Smith forever. Because in that moment, he stopped being a suspect and became something else. A witness. Marcus lay in a coma for 6 months. During that time, Smith disappeared, learning, watching, waiting, because now he understood George's final message. This was never about the book. It was about the person holding it. 6 months later, Marcus woke, weak, alive. Smith sat beside him. You recorded everything. Marcus nodded faintly. Relief flooded Smith. But that night, Smith reopened the blue book and noticed something new. A second hidden seam. His breath stopped. Inside was a small folded note. George's handwriting. Smith opened it slowly, and the world shifted. Smith, if you are reading this, then I was right about you. I didn't choose you by accident. I have been watching you for months. You notice details others miss. You don't run when pressured. And most importantly, you care about the truth. They will try to erase anyone who helps you. So I made sure you would be the last piece they couldn't predict. Be my eyes. Finish what I started. George. Smith's hands began to shake. This had never been random. George had chosen him. On purpose. The courtroom was packed. Director Kit sat calm, confident, untouchable, until the footage played. Gunshots, orders, her face, clear, undeniable. For the first time, fear flickered across her eyes. The case collapsed fast. Arrests followed. Investigations reopened. George's death was officially ruled. Premeditated silencing. Smith Carter, fully cleared. Months later, Smith stood quietly in his apartment. The blue book rested on the shelf. Ordinary, silent. But Smith knew the truth. George hadn't just given him a book. He had passed him a mission. Smith touched the spine gently. I saw it through, he whispered. Outside, the world moved normally. But somewhere deep in the system, monsters had been exposed. Because one man chose the right pair of eyes, and one ordinary neighbor refused to look away.